Steve Harvey had interviewed thousands of families in his 15 years hosting Family Feud, but he'd never seen a contestant suddenly freeze mid-answer like he did that day. The Morrison family from Jacksonville was playing well, but their team captain, a 32-year-old paramedic named Tyler, kept glancing toward the studio wings with an expression Steve had never quite seen before in all his years hosting the show. It wasn't nervousness or excitement about the game. It was something deeper. Raw, like a man standing on the edge of something life-changing without knowing it. "Tyler," Steve said during a brief pause between questions, "you doing all right, man? You keep looking over there like you're expecting someone." Tyler's wife, Sarah, squeezed his hand, and Steve caught the quick exchange of glances between her and the producers. After 17 years of hosting this show, Steve knew when something special was brewing. He'd seen surprises, proposals, and emotional moments, but something about the energy in the studio today felt different. "I'm good, Steve," Tyler said, his voice steady despite the emotion flickering in his eyes. I don't know. Feeling something today. Can't explain it." What Tyler didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that just 30 feet away, hidden in the wings, a 21-year-old nursing student named Emma was watching him on a monitor, tears streaming down her face as she saw her brother for the first time in 21 years. The same brother she'd only learned existed 3 months ago. The same brother who'd spent over a decade searching for her. The Morrisons were facing off against the Chen family from San Diego, and the game was progressing smoothly. Tyler stood at the center podium, with Sarah beside him, their 3-year-old daughter's photo tucked in his shirt pocket for good luck, a ritual he'd done for every important moment since she was born. His cousin Marcus and Marcus's wife Denise filled out the team, along with Tyler's best friend from the fire station, James. "So, Tyler," Steve said during one of their chat moments, "tell me about your work. Paramedic, right? That's gotta be intense." Tyler's face lit up with the passion that had driven him to emergency medicine. 15 years now, Steve. Started volunteering at 18. Never looked back. There's something about being there for people in their worst moments, you know? Being the help they need. "That's beautiful, man," Steve replied, genuinely moved. "What made you want to go into that field?" Tyler hesitated, and Sarah gave him an encouraging nod. "Well, Steve, I grew up in foster care. Bounced around a lot of homes. But when I was 13, I had an accident. Broke my leg pretty bad skateboarding. The paramedics who helped me, they didn't just treat my injury. They talked to me, made me laugh, made me feel like I mattered. I decided that day I wanted to be that person for someone else." The audience responded with warm applause, but Steve noticed something flicker across Tyler's face, a shadow of something left unsaid. "Foster care must have been tough," Steve said gently. "It was," Tyler admitted. "But it made me who I am. Taught me to be strong, to look out for others. The hardest part was..." He paused, swallowing hard. "The hardest part was knowing I had a baby sister out there somewhere. We got separated when I went into care. She was just 6 months old." The studio fell silent. Even the other team seemed moved by the confession. Steve stepped closer, his game show host persona giving way to something more genuine. "You were separated from your sister?" Steve asked softly. "My mom, she loved us. She really did. But she was fighting battles she couldn't win back then. Addiction is a disease, and it took everything from her." "From us." Tyler's voice was thick with emotion, but free of bitterness. "When child services came, I was 11. My sister Emma was just a baby. They told me she'd be adopted quickly. Babies always are. They said it would be better for her, a fresh start with a family who could give her everything. And you believe that?" "I had to," Tyler said simply. What else could an 11-year-old kid in foster care do? But I never forgot her. Never stopped wondering if she was okay, if she was happy, if she remembered. Well, she couldn't remember me, could she? She was just a baby. Sarah reached over and touched her husband's arm, a gesture of support that spoke of years of hearing this story, of helping him carry this weight. "Have you tried to find her?" Steve asked. "Every way I could," Tyler replied. "When I turned 18, I started searching. But adoption records are sealed, and I didn't even know what name she was given. I knew her birth name, Emma Grace Morrison, but that could have changed. I hired investigators when I could afford them, did DNA tests hoping for a match, checked social media constantly. Nothing. That must be heartbreaking," Steve said. "It's been 21 years, Tyler said, his voice cracking slightly. "She'd be 21 now, a full adult. Sometimes I wonder if she even knows I exist, if her adoptive parents told her she had a brother who loved her, who never wanted to let her go." In the wings, Emma had to cover her mouth to stifle a sob. The production assistant with her offered tissues, but Emma couldn't take her eyes off the monitor. This was him, her brother, the one she'd imagined 1,000 different ways since finding out about him 3 months ago. He was real, and he was kind, and he'd been looking for her all this time. Steve turned to the audience. "You all feel that? That's what family means. Never giving up, never forgetting, always hoping." The game continued, but there was a different energy now. The Morrison family played with renewed determination, as if Tyler's confession had bonded them even more tightly. They won the first round easily, their natural chemistry evident in how they anticipated each other's answers. During a commercial break, Steve was briefed by his producers about what was coming. His eyes widened, and he had to take a moment to compose himself. He'd reunited family members before on the show, but this story, something about it hit different. When they returned from commercial, Steve had a different demeanor. "Tyler," Steve began, "before we continue with the game, I need to tell you something. Your wife, Sarah, reached out to our producers a few weeks ago." Tyler turned to look at Sarah, confusion clear on his face. She had tears in her eyes, but was smiling. "What's going on?" Tyler asked. 3 months ago," Steve continued, "a young woman in Atlanta was going through some paperwork for her nursing school application. She needed her birth certificate, and when her parents gave it to her, they also gave her something else, her original birth certificate, the one with her birth name." Tyler's whole body went rigid. The studio was so quiet, you could hear the hum of the lights. "Her birth name," Steve said slowly, "was Emma Grace Morrison." Tyler's legs seemed to give out, and James quickly steadied him. That's her name. That's my sister's name." "This young woman, she did what you did, Tyler. She took a DNA test, and 3 months ago, she got a match. A brother who'd been looking for her for 21 years. Tyler was openly crying now, not even trying to wipe the tears. "She found me." "She found you," Steve confirmed. "And when Sarah heard about it, she worked with our producers because Emma wanted to meet you somewhere special. Somewhere that would be recorded. Somewhere you'd remember forever." "Is she?" Tyler couldn't finish the sentence. Steve nodded toward the wings. "Emma? Emma, come on out here." The young woman who walked onto the stage was unmistakably Tyler's sister. They had the same eyes, deep brown with flecks of gold. The same nose. The same way of walking with a slight forward lean, as if eager to get where they were going. She was wearing scrubs. She'd come straight from her clinical rotation, and her face was a mirror of Tyler's. Disbelief, joy, and 21 years of separation all mixed together. Tyler didn't walk to her, he ran. They met in the center of the stage, and when they embraced, there wasn't a dry eye in the studio. Tyler held his baby sister like he was still that 11-year-old boy who'd had to let her go, and she clung to him like she'd been waiting her whole life for this hug. "Emma?" He said her name like a prayer, pulling back to look at her face. "Is it really you?" "Hi, Tyler," she said through her tears. "I'm sorry it took me so long to find you." "No," he said firmly, cupping her face in his hands like he used to when she was a baby. "No apologies. You're here. That's all that matters. You're here." They hugged again, and this time Sarah joined them, wrapping her arms around both siblings. The audience was on their feet, applauding through their tears. Even the other team was crying and clapping. When they finally separated, Steve guided them to sit on the Family Feud steps. The game was forgotten now. This was about something far more important. "Emma," Steve said gently, "tell us your story. How did you grow up?" Emma wiped her eyes, never letting go of Tyler's hand. "I was adopted when I was 8 months old by the most wonderful parents, David and Marie Phillips. They told me I was adopted from the time I was little. It was never a secret. They said my birth mother loved me but couldn't take care of me, and that was why they got to be my parents." "They sound like good people," Tyler said, his voice rough with emotion. "They are," Emma assured him. "They gave me everything. Love, education, opportunities. I grew up in suburban Atlanta, went to good schools. I'm in my 3rd year of nursing school now at Emory." "Nursing," Tyler repeated, a smile breaking across his face. "Medical field, just like me." "I know," Emma said, squeezing his hand. "When I found out you were a paramedic, I couldn't believe it. All my life, I've felt drawn to helping people, to medicine. My parents said even as a little girl, I was always trying to take care of everyone." "Tell him about the DNA test," Steve prompted. Emma took a deep breath. "I needed my birth certificate for a background check for my clinical rotation. My parents had always said they'd give me my original documentation when I was ready. When they gave it to me, Mom, my adoptive mom, she said there was something else I should know, that I'd had a brother." Tyler's grip on her hand tightened. "They didn't know much," Emma continued. "Just that I'd been removed from our birth mother's care along with an older brother, and that we'd been separated. The social worker had told them you were 11 and in foster care, that you'd probably be adopted too. They always planned to tell me when I was older, but the years just passed." "Did you remember anything?" Tyler asked. "Any memories?" Emma shook her head. "I was too young. But Tyler, I always felt like something was missing. Not that my life wasn't complete. My parents gave me everything, but there was this. Space, like a phantom limb. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense," Tyler said. "I felt it too. Feel it. Well, felt. Not anymore." Steve interjected. "So you took a DNA test?" "My roommate convinced me," Emma said. "She said with all the genealogy sites now, maybe I could find you. I didn't really believe it would work, but I thought, what could it hurt? And then, 3 months ago, I got an email. You have a close family match." "I'd done the same test 2 years ago," Tyler explained. "I'd given up checking for matches, but I never deleted the account. When I saw your profile," Emma said, fresh tears starting, "you'd written this message for anyone who might be looking for family. It said, 'If you're my sister Emma, I've been looking for you since the day we were separated. I think about you every day. I hope you're happy and healthy and loved. Your big brother, Tyler.'" Now Tyler was crying again, too. "I wrote that the day I submitted the test. Just in case." "I stared at that message for hours," Emma admitted. "I was scared to reach out. What if you were angry that I'd taken so long? What if you'd moved on? What if—" "Never," Tyler interrupted. "I could never be angry at you." "And move on?" "Emma, I became a paramedic partly because I hoped maybe one day I'd be the one to help you and you'd recognize me somehow. Crazy, right?" "Not crazy at all," Emma said. "I went into nursing partly because I had this weird feeling that someone in my family was in medicine. I can't explain it." Steve was wiping his own eyes now.
"This is incredible! You both went into helping professions, both in medicine. What are the odds?"
"Tell him about the first time we talked," Sarah encouraged from where she stood nearby. Emma smiled through her tears. "I finally got the courage to message him through the DNA site. Just a simple, 'Hi, I think you're my brother.' Within 5 minutes, my phone was ringing. Longest 5 minutes of my life," Tyler added. "When I saw that message, I couldn't breathe. Sarah had to dial the phone for me because my hands were shaking too much." "What was that first conversation like?" Steve asked. 4 hours, they said in unison. then laughed. The same laugh, the same timing. "We talked for 4 hours straight," Tyler elaborated. 21 years of catching up. I told her about growing up, about Sarah, about our daughter Lily. She told me about her life, her parents, school. It was like finding a piece of myself I didn't know was missing. And I finally understood why I'd always felt incomplete, Emma added. Not unhappy, just incomplete. Because part of my heart was with my brother, wherever he was. Steve turned to address the audience. Now, folks, what you don't know is that Emma and Tyler have been talking every day for the past 3 months, but this is the first time they're meeting in person. Emma wanted it to be special, wanted it to be somewhere meaningful. When Sarah called me and suggested Family Feud, Emma explained, it felt perfect. Tyler loves this show. He watches it every night after his shifts. And I thought, what better place to have a family reunion than on a show about families? She didn't want just a meeting in a coffee shop, Sarah added, moving closer to the siblings. She wanted Tyler to know that this was real, that she was here to stay, that their whole family was behind this reunion. Your whole family? Tyler looked between his wife and sister. Emma's smile widened. Tyler, there's someone else here who wants to meet you. Mom? Dad? Can you come out? From the wings emerged a couple in their 50s. David Phillips, a tall man with kind eyes and graying temples, and Marie Phillips, a petite woman whose face showed the same emotional overwhelm as everyone else in the studio. Tyler stood up shakily as they approached. These were the people who'd raised his baby sister, who'd given her the life he'd prayed she'd have. Tyler, David said, his voice thick with emotion. We've heard so much about you. Emma's talked about nothing but her big brother for 3 months. Thank you, Tyler said, the words coming out in a rush. Thank you for loving her, for raising her, for giving her everything I couldn't. Marie Phillips stepped forward and pulled Tyler into a hug that surprised them both. No, sweetheart. Thank you for loving her so fiercely that she could feel it even without knowing you. She's who she is, partly because she always knew, somewhere deep down, that she had a brother who loved her. When they separated, David shook Tyler's hand, then pulled him into a hug as well. Your family, he said simply. You've always been family. We just didn't know where to find you. And there's more family to meet, Emma said, turning to Sarah. I can't wait to meet my niece. Tyler sent me about 1,000 pictures of Lily. Sarah laughed, pulling out her phone. Only 1,000? I thought it was more. And she can't wait to meet her Aunt Emma. We've been telling her about you. She's 3, right? Emma asked. Born in March? March 21st, Tyler confirmed. First day of spring. Said she wanted to come into the world with the flowers. That's the day I got my acceptance letter to nursing school, Emma said quietly. I remember thinking it felt like a sign of new beginnings. Steve, who'd been quietly observing this family knitting itself together, stepped forward. You know what's amazing? Tyler, you said you went into paramedicine partly hoping to find your sister. Emma, you went into nursing feeling called to medicine. You were both trying to find your way to each other. And now she's going to be the best nurse in Atlanta, Tyler said proudly. When do you graduate? Next year, Emma said. And I already know where I want to work. Pediatric emergency. I want to be there for kids who are scared, who might be going through trauma. Kids like us. Like us, Tyler repeated, the words hitting him fresh. Emma, I need you to know something. That day, the day they took us, I fought them. I begged them not to separate us. I promised I'd take care of you, that I'd get a job, that I'd do anything. I was only 11, but I meant it. Tyler? No, Emma said, fresh tears starting. You were a child. None of this was your fault. I know that now. Therapy helped a lot. But I need you to know that letting them take you was the hardest thing that ever happened to me. Harder than any foster home. Harder than aging out of the system. Harder than anything. But look what you did with that pain, Emma insisted. You became someone who saves lives. You built a beautiful family. You never gave up on finding me. And you became someone who heals people, Tyler countered. You had the life I wanted for you. Loving parents, education, opportunities. That's all I ever wanted. Steve interrupted gently. Can I ask, Tyler, what happened with your birth mother? If that's not too personal? Tyler took a breath, looking at Emma. She got clean when I was 16. Too late to get us back, but she did it. She reached out to me when I turned 18. Wanted to apologize, to explain. We've rebuilt a relationship. It's not perfect, but it's healing. Does she know about today? Emma asked softly. No, Tyler said. I wanted to tell her in person. Maybe you'd want to meet her. When you're ready? No pressure. Emma nodded slowly. I think I'd like that. My parents, my adoptive parents, they've always said they'd support me if I wanted to find my birth family. They're not threatened by it. They know they're my parents. In every way that matters. You got lucky with them, Tyler said, looking at the Phillipses with genuine gratitude. We got lucky with her, Marie corrected. She's been a gift every single day. And now we get a son-in-law and a granddaughter as a bonus. Speaking of which, Sarah said, stepping forward. Emma, would you like to video call Lily? She's with my mom, but I know she'd love to meet her Aunt Emma. Emma's face lit up. Really? Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. As Sarah set up the video call, Steve addressed the audience. You know, in all my years hosting this show, I've seen families compete, laugh together, argue over answers. But today, we're seeing something else. A family being rebuilt, reconnected, made whole again. The video connected, and a cherubic 3-year-old face filled the phone screen. Hi, Daddy. Hi, Mommy. Are you winning? Hey, baby girl, Tyler said, his voice soft with love. We're definitely winning. Lily, there's someone very special Daddy wants you to meet. Remember how we talked about Daddy's sister? Aunt Emma, Lily exclaimed. You found her? Emma moved into view of the camera, tears streaming down her face.
Hi, Lily. I'm your Aunt Emma. You're even prettier than in your pictures.
You look like Daddy, Lily observed with 3-year-old directness. Are you coming to our house? We can have a tea party. I would love to have a tea party with you. Grandma, Aunt Emma's crying, Lily said, concerned. Is she sad? Tyler's mother-in-law's voice came through the phone. No, sweetheart. Those are happy tears. Oh, Lily processed this. Then I'm happy crying too. She scrunched up her face in an exaggerated cry that had everyone laughing through their actual tears. After they ended the call with promises to see Lily soon, Steve brought the attention back to the moment. Emma, Tyler, I have to ask, what happens now? You've found each other, but you live in different cities, have different lives. We've actually been talking about that, Tyler said, glancing at Sarah, who nodded. There's a paramedic position opening up at Grady Hospital in Atlanta, one of the best trauma centers in the country. You're moving to Atlanta? Emma gasped. We're thinking about it, Sarah confirmed. My job is remote anyway, and we want Lily to grow up knowing her aunt. Plus, Atlanta's got better weather than Jacksonville. And I'm already planning to come to Jacksonville for Thanksgiving, Emma added. Mom and Dad are coming too. Tyler invited us all. First family Thanksgiving, Tyler said, the wonder clear in his voice. Our first holiday together since ever, really. What are you most looking forward to? Steve asked. Tyler and Emma looked at each other and again answered in unison. I want to know all her favorite foods so I can cook them, Tyler said. I want to see all his photo albums, hear all the stories, Emma added. I want her to know she was never forgotten, not for a single day. I want him to know that even without knowing him, he shaped who I became. Steve stepped back, letting the siblings have their moment. The audience was transfixed, many still wiping tears. The other family had long since abandoned any pretense of competition, as moved by the reunion as everyone else. You know what gets me? Tyler said suddenly. She's in nursing school. All those years, I imagined what she might be doing, who she might become. I pictured her as a teacher, a writer, maybe a mom. But somehow I never imagined her in medicine like me. Tell him about the other coincidence, Sarah prompted Emma. Emma laughed, a sound that was startlingly similar to Tyler's laugh. This is going to sound made up, but I swear it's true. You know how you always wear that Street Christopher pendant? Tyler automatically touched the pendant at his neck.
My foster mom gave it to me when I aged out. Said it would keep me safe in my travels.
Emma reached into her scrubs and pulled out an identical pendant. My mom gave me this when I started nursing school. Said it would protect me while I protected others. The coincidence sent a fresh wave of amazement through the studio. Tyler reached out to touch Emma's pendant, shaking his head in wonder. Same saint, same reason, given at pivotal moments in our lives, he marveled. If that's not a sign we were meant to find each other, I don't know what is. Can I tell you something else weird? Emma asked. I've always been terrified of thunderstorms. Like, irrationally afraid. My parents said it didn't make sense, because nothing bad ever happened to me during a storm. Tyler's eyes widened. The night before they took us, there was the worst thunderstorm. You were crying, and I held you all night, singing that song Mom used to sing. You are my sunshine. Emma gasped. I know that song. I mean, everyone knows it, but I've always found it weirdly comforting, even though it's kind of sad. My mom said when I was little, I used to hum it to self-soothe, but she didn't know where I learned it. I sang it to you every night for 6 months. Tyler said softly. It was the only thing that would calm you down. Steve, who had been letting them discover each other, stepped forward again. This is what I'm talking about, folks. These connections, these threads that bind us even when we don't know why. Tyler sang to his baby sister 21 years ago, and somewhere in her memory, that song stayed with her. We have a lot of memories to make up for, Emma said, squeezing Tyler's hand. We've got time, Tyler assured her. We've got nothing but time now. The producers signaled to Steve that they needed to wrap up, but he waved them off. This was more important than any schedule. Before we go, Steve said, I want to ask you both something. What would you say to other people out there who might be searching for family? Who might have lost someone to the system, to adoption, to circumstances beyond their control? Tyler spoke first. Don't give up. It took 21 years, but Emma and I found each other. Take the DNA tests, do the searches, keep hoping, but also build your life. I built a beautiful family while I was waiting to find Emma. The love doesn't divide, it multiplies. Emma nodded. And for those who were adopted, your adoptive families are your real families. Finding Tyler doesn't change how much I love my parents. They're the ones who raised me, who were there for every milestone. But there's room in your heart for all of it. Birth families, adoptive families, chosen families. Love doesn't have limits. Beautifully said, Steve concluded. Ladies and gentlemen, what we've witnessed today isn't just a reunion. It's a testament to the power of love, the strength of family bonds, and the miracles that can happen when we never give up hope. He turned back to Tyler and Emma, who were still holding hands like they might never let go. The Morrison family. All of the Morrison family. You're our winners today. Not of the game, but of something far more valuable. The audience erupted in applause, a standing ovation that went on and on. Tyler and Emma stood, pulling their respective families into a group hug that seemed to encompass years of separation and a lifetime of future memories. As the cameras stopped rolling and the studio began to clear, the two families lingered on stage. Emma was showing Tyler photos on her phone, her high school graduation, her white coat ceremony, pictures with friends who would become his friends too. Tyler was telling her stories, the foster homes that were kind, the ones that weren't, the day he met Sarah, the moment Lily was born. You know what's funny? Emma said during a quiet moment. My whole life, when people asked if I had siblings, I always hesitated before saying no. Like some part of me knew it wasn't true. I always said I had a sister, Tyler admitted. Even when social workers told me to let go, to move on, I'd say, I have a sister named Emma, and someday I'm going to find her. And you did, Emma said, fresh tears starting. You kept your promise. We both did, Tyler corrected. We both found our way home. Steve Harvey, still standing nearby, watched the families merge and blend, creating new bonds while honoring the one that had never truly been broken. He'd hosted thousands of episodes of Family Feud, seen countless families compete and laugh and argue and make up. But this was why he did it. For moments like these, when the game became secondary to the human connections it could facilitate. As the Morrison and Phillips families finally prepared to leave the studio together, making plans for dinner, for the future, for all the tomorrows they'd been denied, Tyler stopped and turned back to Steve. Thank you, he said simply, for giving us this moment, this memory, for letting America see that foster kids grow up to be paramedics and nurses and parents, for showing that families separated by the system can find their way back to each other. Steve shook his hand, then pulled him into a hug. Brother, this was an honor. You take care of that sister. You've got a lot of time to make up for. Every second counts, Tyler agreed. And we're not wasting any more of them. As they walked off stage, Emma slipped her hand back into her brother's, a gesture as natural as breathing despite the 21 years of separation. Tyler looked down at their joined hands, then at his sister's face. So familiar, so new, so perfectly right. Hey, Emma, he said as they reached the studio doors. Yeah? Welcome home, she smiled. That Morrison smile that they shared despite growing up 300 miles apart. You too, big brother. Welcome home. The studio doors closed behind them, but their story was just beginning. 21 years of separation had ended, and a lifetime of siblinghood stretched ahead. They had families to blend, memories to create, traditions to establish. They had Sunday dinners to plan, and birthdays to celebrate, and 1,000 ordinary moments to share. But first, they had dinner reservations at a restaurant down the street, where two families would become one over shared stories, and probably more than a few tears. Where David and Marie Phillips would thank Tyler for never giving up on their daughter, and where Tyler would thank them for giving Emma the life he'd dreamed for her. Where Sarah would show Emma videos of Lily's first steps, and Emma would share stories from nursing school. Where plans would be made for Thanksgiving, and Christmas, and all the holidays to come. The next morning, Tyler would call Emma at exactly 8 a.m., starting a tradition of daily morning calls that would stretch for years. Just checking you're still real, he'd say, and she'd laugh and assure him she wasn't going anywhere. Emma would visit Jacksonville the following weekend, meeting Lily in person for the first time. The 3-year-old would take her aunt's hand within minutes, declaring her the best aunt ever and insisting she stay forever. Tyler would find them hours later having a tea party in Lily's room and would have to leave to compose himself at the sight of his daughter and sister together. The DNA testing company would feature their story in their annual report, a testament to the connections their technology could facilitate. But for Tyler and Emma, the real miracle wasn't the technology. It was that love could survive 21 years of separation, that bonds formed in the first 6 months of life could withstand decades of absence. On their 33rd and 22nd birthdays, celebrated together for the first time, they would blow out candles on a cake that Sarah and Marie had made together, a symbolic joining of their histories. Tyler would tell the story of singing "You Are My Sunshine" during thunderstorms, and Emma would share how she'd always felt safest during storms when someone was with her, never understanding why, until now. They would meet their birth mother together on a rainy Thursday in January, holding hands as they walked into the coffee shop where she waited. She would cry at the sight of them together, the babies she'd loved but couldn't keep, now grown into people who helped and healed others. I prayed for this every day, she would tell them, that you'd find each other again. The reunion would be complicated, layered with pain and loss, and slowly building forgiveness. But it would be another step toward wholeness. Tyler would indeed take the job at Grady Hospital, moving his family to Atlanta in the spring. Emma would be there to help them move in, Lily riding on her shoulders as they directed the movers. They would live just 20 minutes apart, close enough for impromptu dinners, far enough for healthy boundaries. Lily would grow up unable to imagine life without her Aunt Emma, and the cousin who would join the family 2 years later would be born into a world where the Morrison family was complete. Emma would graduate nursing school with highest honors, Tyler and Sarah and Lily cheering loudest as she walked across the stage. She would start work in the pediatric emergency department at the same hospital where Tyler worked, their paths crossing during shifts, grabbing coffee between calls, becoming not just siblings but colleagues and friends. 5 years later, when Emma got married in a garden ceremony in Atlanta, Tyler would walk her down the aisle alongside David Phillips. Two dads, Emma would joke, because one wasn't enough to make up for lost time. Tyler's toast at the reception would leave not a dry eye in the house as he spoke about answered prayers and second chances, and the sister who was worth the 21-year wait. But all of that was still to come. On this October afternoon, as they left the Family Feud studio and stepped into the California sunshine, all that mattered was that they were together. Tyler and Emma Morrison, brother and sister, separated by circumstance, but reunited by love, determination, and a miracle named DNA testing. They had been apart for 21 years, 3 months, and 14 days. They would never be apart again. And somewhere, in whatever place such things are decided, the universe smiled at a job well done, at two hearts that had found their way back to each other, at a family that had been broken but refused to stay that way. Because some bonds can't be severed by time or distance, or even the well-meaning decisions of a broken system. Some bonds are written in DNA, sung in lullabies, carried in pendants, and kept alive in the faithful hope that someday, somehow, love would find a way. It always does.